Welcome back to another episode of Growth Vertical. Today, we're going to be talking about how to grow your audience and scale a startup or your startup with data driven content. And I'm joined by Tamara Thompson. Tamara's the CEO of Broadcast Your Authority, a data driven content agency that specializes in creating marketing and creating micro content. She's directed entrepreneurial films that has sold out in national film festivals and has been seen and sort of approved by companies, big companies out there like IndieFlix, who noticed her films and acquired them for distribution in the past. And these are only some of her feats. So, Tamara, thank you for coming and joining us here today. It's great to have you here on the episode and for a great topic. Honestly, I think it's a topic that a lot of us are talking about these days, considering there's like a massive competitive sort of market out there for content specifically. But before we get into it, let's hear a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Neil, for having me. I truly appreciate you for inviting me on the show. A little bit about myself. I'm the founder of Broadcast Your Authority. I'm an investor. I've invested in over 25 women-owned companies, starting during COVID to help teach people how to come online a little bit more and help give them a push on the early stage startup. I also invest in real estate, and Broadcast Your Authority is a great company. It's a team managed company at this point in my life, and I speak at a lot of events and on a lot of podcasts. I'm writing my first book, and there's a lot of other things that I'm doing. But like you said, my career started back in the filmmaking side of it, and what happened was that story led into the content marketing agency. Little did I know until years later, but what happened was, after being in the production field, I had owned a production company. I had some documentary films that were picked up and acquired by IndieFlix, circled and sold out in film festivals. And those, when YouTube really took off, like, let's say like 15, 20 years ago, starts dating my age a little bit, but what we did is we took that long form content, which at the time was a documentary, and we created micro content from it, the short, compelling micro pieces that would get people's attention. And it took off on YouTube. And so we wanted to do more of it. So within the first 10 days, we had over 888,000 views to our channel on one of our films, and it took off. And I was super grateful for the opportunity because it allowed me to say, like, wow, what is this YouTube beast? And like, how can I help other people do this? I was very intrigued by it. And so we took that methodology of actually learning YouTube optimization first. What are people actually searching for versus just creating content? It's a focus of actually creating SEO based content for YouTube and Google, and really put that data first, right? No matter if you're creating a podcast or YouTube content, it's important to find topics people are actually searching for versus what you believe people want to hear. And so that's our focus for our clients. We do the same system that we did back then, creating micro content from that, but pulling the most compelling and informative pieces of micro content from a long form piece of content. And so that's really where it got to be. It started with long form content in documentary, to micro content on YouTube, which now they have YouTube Shorts, which is incredible, which a lot of our clients are just like, whoop, at this point. But that's where it started. We moved that model into a content marketing agency with the focus of data-driven content for podcasts. So yeah, that's where it really started, those back then.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, it seems like you had successes, of course, and your own case studies beforehand, and then you found that, hey, this is something I can tap into, and I know I found something somewhat of a gem, right? And I guess I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but of course you enjoy it to take it this far.
Desired industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always loved video. My dad bought a camcorder when I was age 7, and it was like, those huge camcorders in the 80s that were like bigger than my head. Like, I was so
the ones that fit on your shoulder.
Yeah. VHS tapes, the big VHS tapes, not the mini ones. So that back in the 80s, so video was always with me, and YouTube was with me from the start when it started. And I got in early with YouTube. And then like I knew that I wanted to build more of a company. I had that entrepreneurial mindset because my mom was an entrepreneur. And so I learned young at age 9, actually. I started my own side business with my mom's business at age 9. So I've always had things instilled in me to go after my passion, take action. When you fall
Right.
on your face, get back up and go. Failure is a good thing. Anytime you fall, get back up, learn from it, and go. And so that's really like what I did on that side. But yeah, I led it into things I was passionate about. Like I always, I was in the fitness industry before this, and I didn't like it. I was unhappy. And when I went into video, I was like, this is so cool. Right. And so, like, I have my own podcast, Video Marketing for Business podcast, with the intention that video marketing for business is an actual keyword that people search for. So, lead with intention of how you title your topics for your shows and stuff like that. And that's what we teach our clients. So yeah, it started back with video, and it's been there all along, and super passionate about anything video, micro content, you name it, podcast.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting because you mentioned the whole video aspects and how it's sort of become a rise to even create video, and people actually go into voice now as well, right? Specifically going to podcasts just due to convenience. They can listen to things on demand whilst multitasking, and with this sort of that, I think we're in that sort of content war / consumption war, if that makes sense. And it's like, how do
Yeah.
it's something you talked about, the
Stand
intent
out from
behind.
the others, though.
Exactly. And I think
Yeah.
you mentioned to look at keywords. Now, I think you've probably heard this as well.
Yeah.
There's two sides to that argument, right? In the coin, right? So it's more so we can go after the intent, but then there's certain things that there isn't any demand for just yet, but they may be searched in the future. So how do you balance between those from a more strategic level in the beginning? Like, is it that you have to go after what's there first, and then you layer on what you're actually unique with, or things like that, just so that you can showcase yourself as an authority? Or how does that usually work in your eyes?
Yeah, so we primarily work with businesses that have had a track record. They have offers set in place, and they have a very specific niche. So when you have a specific niche and focus, it's always important to create content to target your audience.
Right.
If you can have a conversational podcast, you can have an inspirational podcast, you can have a hobby podcast, but we work with serious business owners that have a call to action, right? So it's not just always, of course, related back to YouTube and things like that, and podcasts and asking for reviews to bring better rankings for your show. But there's always an intent to have your call to action at the end. How can it help build your email list? How can it go into an offer? And what is the main goal of the intention of this show? Why are you hosting this show, right? Is it to get more clients and leads? If that's a yes, and you have your systems in place, those are the type of companies we work with. On the startup level, it's a little bit different. So people are still testing out things. And yes, it's totally okay to test things out. But it is so important to have a niche. You have to be niche down,
Right.
and don't just throw content on the wall like it's spaghetti because it won't stick. And so that's our primary focus, and our target audience are successful business owners that have this point in their life. They may have a successful company, and now they're about to build their personal brand. They're the CEOs that have team managed companies, and they're out there doing things like speaking on keynotes. They're creating offers. They're doing consulting, so it's a little bit different for startups. You can still get traction. You just have to have that main focus and that niche. If it's conversational podcast, just put the intent to still have a focus with those conversations as well.
Yeah. And there's like a multitude of platforms, right? I think when we talk about that content, even if we were to dial in the content and have a pure focus there, we found, I mean, there's a ton of platforms that we could actually choose from. TikTok being on the rise. I should say that it's technically already having a really good effect or impact on the market. But
it's a great place. It's a great place for
yeah.
podcasts and marketing. So like we create micro content for TikTok for certain packages with our clients. But we, again, are very data driven focused. So we see what's going on in the top searches in the back end of our clients' YouTube channel, on their playlists for their podcasts, on the playlists with keywords for other types of topics on YouTube. So it's important to have playlists on YouTube that actually are keyword optimized. when we can see what's in the back end, you can do the same thing. So an example, one of our clients, he searched highly for how to buy a business, buying a business.
Yeah.
So we did the same test with TikTok. People are searching for that stuff on TikTok. He took off and went viral for buying a business on the keywords on TikTok. And you would think it would be similar because the audience is following over to TikTok from YouTube, but there's also new audiences. So it's allowing him to appear on the For You page. So we say, hey, let's double down on the buying a business content, pull more micro content from those episodes because
Right.
we see the analytics go up, right? So when your audience speaks, double down on the content that took off, or repost or reshare content on YouTube that took off. Like, you want to keep getting that suggested content back to YouTube, TikTok, hashtags on Instagram, all that stuff. So it's still an intentional play with your podcast, but podcasts do actually really well on TikTok, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a future set of platforms, that are ideal for content marketing? Like, do you have any opinion on what platforms will be sort of the new ones in the future for content marketing?
Yeah, so it really depends on what your focus of your offer is and what your business does, right? So you've got like Discord communities building instead of Facebook groups. What generation is going into what platform? There's always, new talk of different platforms as well. So
Yeah.
TikTok will probably, be replaced at some point, just like, people moved from Facebook to Instagram, like Snapchat, all the things that are going. There's always going to be a new like blast of a social platform that's going to come up. But TikTok definitely is one of those platforms, but it is starting to go into because it helped drive people to give that virality piece the first few years. People like went over there, so they still have this thought that they're allowing people to go viral consistently. But what we're seeing the last year with TikTok is they're kind of honing in and bringing that back down, right? So they got that big push, and when you do take off and you're creative or have the right keywords that can be pushed to the For You page on TikTok, that's unique. But what we're seeing though is they kind of had that momentum because they allowed people to go viral for a few years.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of going into the pay to play, like Facebook.
Absolutely.
So you'll start seeing shifts. But yeah, it depends on where you hang out, where your offers are. A lot of people are going into Discord communities, building that way, things like that. There's, Telegram. There's different people sharing content in different ways within community bases.
Even WhatsApp I've seen used for businesses now as well. You get like the business accounts, people making full use of those business accounts, which is interesting to see. Because you would think
it's true, but if you push out to a community, sorry to interrupt on that.
No, it's fine.
But if you push out to a community, WhatsApp, just be aware it only can push out to 512 individuals in a group. Yeah. Whereas like Telegram, it's like over like 200,000, and Discord's like unlimited, so it's like
a broadcast.
Yes, it's a great way to actually, yeah. So you can even like Twitter Spaces, right? So like people are sharing content in different ways. Like you can repurpose your podcast. You can do a live podcast on a Twitter Space, repurpose that content. We have a client that does that. They record all their podcasts on their Twitter Space live, repurpose that into a podcast, and then the micro content goes out everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. So it just, the first question again is, where is your audience hanging out? And are you open to just being omnipresent? Just be on all platforms. Even if you don't believe your clients or audience is there, it's okay to be everywhere, because when people do their due diligence and research, they can actually find you and they'll see you pop up everywhere. And that's great, because if they're going to your LinkedIn and you don't have any business information there and you haven't posted in 2 years, like they might not take you as credible, right? And so it's just important to have the consistency of content, and that's what we create for our clients, so that they have that omnipresence, the consistency, and all they do is push record and pass off the content. We provide the direction, do the posting, everything, creation. And so that's like the system that we've created for our clients that keep coming back to work with us year after year after year, because they're at that point in their business where they can do that, right? Yeah. And they're like, they're like, all I want to do is push record and pass it off. You do the rest. And that's what we do. And that's when people are at that point in their business, like it's a great tool, resource and service to have. So.
Yeah. I think thinking about it with case study in mind sort of thing, even with Growth Vertical itself, right? Usually we usually create long form content, of course, right, in the form of episodes like this, for example. But one thing I do as a growth marketer want to explore is the idea behind using shoots to sort of increase the impression count that we get across loads of, let's say, across loads of episodes and for those specific keywords, which is interesting. So it's worth a test. But do you think sorry, that's it's related to what you were saying, it would be good to test out in the future. But do you think that there's a common myth about content marketing? Because when you look at content marketing, or when you listen to anyone talk about it, be like, hey, you should try do some content marketing. It's almost like business owners feel overwhelmed straight away. Like there's a massive weight just put on their shoulders, like content marketing. Doesn't that require a lot of time? Doesn't that require a lot of review, etc.? Do you think there's any common myths about content marketing that people should sort of forget about?
Well, I guess it just depends on where they're at and where their mindset is, truly.
Yeah.
Because the content itself, content marketing is just, at this point, it's just needed for a business. Like if you're not marketing your business in the form of content, then you're 10 steps behind and you're behind the shadows of your competition, right? So no matter what type of content marketing that you choose, you can repurpose content, if it's video, if it's blogs, if it's podcast, if it's, audio, files, whatever it is, like it's just important to get the content out there. And if you have anything that you could literally just start to repurpose that's still valid points that are today, that's not too old of content that wouldn't be relatable, why not start with repurposing content? If you're a startup company, have a team or a freelancer come in and help you start organizing things to get started. When you have a successful business, hire an agency that will just come in and do it all for you. Like that's the whole point with content marketing, is like you shouldn't be focusing on like doing it yourself when you get to certain points, because of the fact that it takes a lot of time and energy, like you were saying. And if we're in a startup phase, I don't know about you, but when I was in a startup phase, like I was a CEO, I was running stuff, I was micromanaging, I was a perfectionist, I was like, all that stuff had to be released, right? Like I was like, I can't scale a multi-million dollar company or agency by doing that, right? And so at that point, it's like, what do I like? Like only focus on the things that I like and are passionate about, which is relationships, content, and speaking, like sharing my message. So I was like, well, I had to let go of that, right? So now I have over 30 team members for our company that does everything for me. So if people are looking at the startup phase to build a team managed company as well, like what part of that do you really have to be a part of or like? Because anything else you should just delegate. And people always say on the mindset level, they might have, if you have a lower mindset in the beginning about like, oh, I can do it better, or it's cheaper this way. It truly isn't, because when you start delegating those pieces out, like you are allowed to focus on the bloodline of your business, which is sales and relationships and building those referral partners, or overseeing campaigns that people are doing, going out, like myself, going out speaking at a lot of events, so that people are attracted to learn more about what the service does. Like the more I'm a brand advocate for the company, the more relationships and sales come into the team. And so when we get stuck in the fulfillment of things, of our own content marketing strategy, like we're not going to scale, right? And so it really depends on, again, where people are at in their business, where their mindset is. But content marketing is not going to go away. It's been around for years, and the people that actually jump in and do something with content are, they have a higher percentage of actually being found, seen, and heard, and have opportunities for people to actually resonate with them, so that they can learn more about what their company does. Because typically people resonate with the founders because they're the most passionate people of the company when starting it. So
I think there was a great point there that you made about this. It was more of a smarter way of working when you try and repurpose content. No one says that you have to produce new content all day, every day, but it's moving the needle, isn't
Mhm.
it? So it's even like myself. This believe it or not, this actually started all from someone just asking me a question and then me getting a repeated question two or three times more and me repeating myself essentially. So I was like, why not put that into a form of a video or some form of thread or something and then answer it so that more people can see. That way, you can just point
Right.
people to that resource, right? And now we have this, right,
Exactly.
which we're having a conversation here, and it's super interesting, and I think it's a great way because it showcases one personality, but as you're pushing your message across to all these different audiences on these platforms, the businesses or your prospects are able to see that, hey, well, brand wise, these guys definitely know what they're talking about, but there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, and they're obviously
Mhm.
very serious
Well,
about
it's
and very
also
knowledgeable about it.
Well, it's also about being innovative too, right? So you can have marketers, you can have companies, you can have agencies. Like one of the biggest things that we've been told by our clients, and we have a really great retention rate, really high, very high renewal rate, because of the fact of showing that in our culture we care, right? We
Yeah,
have great communication. We're not not responding in 24 hours. Like the team is very communicative. We care. We bring up ideas to the table. That we see something on a trend take off, we literally let our clients know. Like, do not be on the trend 2 months after it like released or a year after it released. So if someone's teaching a specific way of a specific type of content, like right now, the poppy captions on TikTok and Instagram with the sound effects and stuff like that. That's a style, right now. And so and before that was like the Gary Vee style with the bars on top and the captions, and square videos and stuff like that. They
yeah,
still can take off no matter what type of format it is, but you have to understand that these platforms favor certain styles. Like it's like the algorithm knows that it has this poppy caption and like swooshes and sound effects that aren't like overloaded. Like it's very
absolutely.
intriguing to be like, why did these take off, and why does it just know? Right? Like it just the platforms are so smart, they just know. And so like when you pay attention, you say, hey, this is the style we're going for. Of course we'll keep it more on brand, but are you open to this poppy different style? Keep it professional, but this is what's working. Are you open to us recreating a little bit different style for your TikToks, right? And people are like, of course, right? Like we still have our focus of data driven content, but the format of the style changes and the trends and using trending music, like you don't have to be dancing in the video. You can use a trending music and bring the
Yeah,
volume down and you're now in the trends, you know? So it's interesting, different things. It's just about paying attention too, and like having to check in with your team every quarter to reevaluate your strategy, see what works, check your analytics. I think it's important to check your analytics, your downloads, your YouTube channel, everything every 30 days. And within that 30 days, you see which content each week and which days of the week took off, and you double down on that for the next. And then you repurpose the content that took off for the next month as well. So it's just being very strategic when you're measuring like your content and stuff like that.
yeah. I think that's a pretty good way of putting it because we do see that with a lot of companies becoming what we call them media companies now, right? So everyone's producing a format or a pieces a multitude of content, but they
Mm-hmm.
also doing it in various forms. And now some people are either, like you mentioned, omnipresent, but the ones that are startups, let's say, data driven content would be the ideal way to actually start with content marketing simply because it allows them to have a pure focus and
Sure.
use their lower
Right.
amounts of resources to produce the better or high impactable
Mm-hmm.
pieces of content at scale, right? So I love that you
Yeah,
mentioned that.
we have a client that just started with us in the sales industry, and so but it's a co-collaborative podcast from two successful women who already have two successful brands. But here's a third brand coming in that's basically starting from scratch, right, with the
Right.
two of them, because what they teach on their other brands is not what they're teaching on this show. So it can get complicated on that aspect. But when we had a specific podcast launch strategy in place and we had several people leave reviews on the launch of their audio podcast, within the first week they were ranking because we had multiple people support the launch. They're in the top in business and marketing for their brand new sales podcast. They were in 20 in Mexico. They bumped up to number 97 in the US, 87 in Canada. So it's about when you do have this is a startup for them on this particular brand, not a startup for the other companies, but you have to be intentional. Like when it is a startup, like what's going to help you propel to the next piece, especially if you're launching a podcast, because you want to ask for reviews, you want to get rankings, you want people to start listening to it, get more downloads, have people recommend people to binge listen. It's being strategic with that and having a very specific focus. So when we noticed the first month with their podcast launch, what specific things were taking off, they had a video called Sales versus Marketing. That one took off, had 1,200 views the first week. And then we said, hey, we're going to create more content from that. That actually, those micro pieces from that content also took off on Instagram and TikTok. So we're repurposing that specific episode again, coming this month. And then they actually had people starting to comment on it as well. People that are new leads. A guy commented on their channel and said, I love this information. I'm going to pass it over to my team. But that could be a potential lead. He's like, we're going to implement this sales versus marketing, these strategies in with my print company. And so it's cool to see the interaction with people and just paying attention to that. So, just be very intentional when you're a startup or launching like a podcast from scratch where nobody knows this part of you or your business. But if you have the support behind you, even colleagues, clients, friends, family on a launch of a podcast, ask them if they'll take a listen and please leave a review in gratitude. And so it's just like be intentional, and you can actually allow your startup to be seen rather quickly as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of gaining a competitive advantage, right? When you're launching it, especially in the current environment where content marketing, there's a ton of content out there and you have to compete with other businesses. I think I was going to ask you actually about that. How can people gain that competitive advantage? But you've already just provided everyone with a strategy. So there you go, everyone.
There you go.
But in terms of the current market, do you think everyone is, I don't know if you've seen this as well, but do you think everyone's trying to produce like everything right away, and then as soon as they see the new trend, they're also getting sidetracked and not finishing the initial pieces of content they planned out to then jump on a trend? Do you think that could actually harm your growth to some degree, or do you think you should always stick to the plan?
Yeah, so our clients just stick with our optimizable topics, and so we have a very specific focus for an entire season for a show, right? So this is for YouTube and your podcast, and certain packages that our clients work with us, they have the opportunity to send in quick cell phone clips of things as well. So depending on what level people work with us, like we're like giving them trends too, so they can hop on that when they can, if they want to do so, and they're at specific levels in their business. Because some people are like, I don't want to shoot anything. They're like, here is content to repurpose. Here's 40 videos. They can all work. Let's repurpose the summit. Let's repurpose podcast interviews I've been on other people's shows. Like, let's do this, do this, do this. It really depends on the person, right? So like if they have the energy, most of the people we work with, they're not in any like hustle mode at this point in their business, right? So when you think about startups, you think like, I knew when both my companies were a startup, I was like, I feel like I'm hustling over here. You're working like 14-hour days, this is like 10 years ago. And I'm like, what's going on? I was like, you're spinning your wheels. You feel like you have to try everything because I am a creative, but over the years, I've become more of a businesswoman versus a creative. Because in the beginning, it was like filmmaker, director, like YouTuber. And I was like, this isn't what I want to be known for, right? Like I want to be an investor. I want to help other people's businesses grow. I want to help them build their marketing. Like it's all about scaling at this point. And so like when you have that like specific focus, it really depends on the person too. So if you have people that are like, yeah, I'm like game to record like content every 2 weeks, and you just tell me what to do. We literally send them 25 TikTok ideas to intertwine with content that comes also from the podcast too.
Right.
So again, it depends on the person, the personality, their bandwidth. Do they want to do this, or are they people that are, they built a company, they're like, I'm good, they're traveling, they have their freedom to do what they want. They're, going to events, they're speaking at events, that's a lot of the types of individuals that we currently work with, because we're helping them build their influence and their personal brand at this
Yeah.
point. And so again, it depends on the person, and again, their mentality of where they feel like they have to create, right? Like, what, instead of you like trying to figure out like what to create or what's trending, like have the
Right.
team send you a list of like what's trending, and you're like, okay, cool, I'll shoot this on this week. If I don't do it, it's it's okay. Like, I don't feel bad about it, right? But we always provide topics for our clients every couple of weeks so they can refresh, because some of them like love to shoot like additional stuff. Like, that's their personality, right? They're influencers. They're a high eye on the disc test, on the personality test. Like,
Yeah.
those are the types of individuals. Like, it's very intriguing to pay attention to personalities as well, and just like, the majority of people we work with are industry leaders, experts, CEOs, influencers. And when you have them take that personality test, they're always a high eye. It's like that common
Yeah.
trend of people that want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be understood, and it's just that commonality on that. So yeah, I don't ever encourage our clients to just like go in there and like try to feel like they have to catch up with something, because when somebody relates to the content in general and they're actually searching for it, we want the right people to follow you. It's not like this just virality thing, right? We want
Absolutely.
people that come in and they sign up for your opt-in, your lead magnet, your offer. They sign up for a consult call, they sign up for your service. Like, that's the whole thing. It's about the quality and the value that you provide, and then the people who actually follow. Like, I don't want like a bunch of 16-year-olds following me. Like, they
Absolutely.
might, but like, that's not who I'm going to work with. So I'd rather have like, 50 new followers a week, and they're actually qualified business owners that come into our funnel and, have a conversation with our team. Like, I'd rather focus on that versus like, I want 250,000 followers, but it's all about positioning though too. So when you do go viral, even if it's not your target audience that just caused the virality, it's great for positioning though. That's
Yeah.
the one piece of it that does help on that.
I think
Yeah.
it's a valid point you make as well, because based on personality, even myself, right at the very beginning, it was purely hustle culture, and you think of, oh, I'm gonna go and I'm actually gonna smash out like X amount of videos or X amount of topics just
Mm-hmm.
around this particular topic, and then you slowly realize that
Mm-hmm.
it either catches up with you or you just don't feel like the recording one day because you found out how taxing it can
Well,
be.
and the thought too, is it just content you want to record, or is this content somebody requested? Is it
Yeah.
something that people commented about? Like, did you ask your audience what they like? Like, you'd be surprised. A lot of people just go and record stuff, and I'm like, did you do a poll on your LinkedIn? Did you do a poll in your Instagram and Facebook stories? Did you do a poll, anywhere? Like,
Yeah. No,
what
it's
do
true.
people want to see more of? And people are like, I don't know what's wrong. I'm like, is it all about you, or is it about what your audience wants to see? Right. So I'm always asking, what do you guys want more of? I'll send out email campaigns. What content do you want to see more of? If I see a video take off, I had a video take off that went viral that was on Facebook Rooms long ago. You hop on the trend when it launches. So when Facebook Rooms launched, boom, people were searching for it. It still gets hundreds of views daily, and it's because people kept commenting. People are behind. This was like filmed probably like 2 years ago, but like, it's interesting to watch. Like, but I see like, okay, cool, so people are still searching stuff like that. So what other content can I create that relate to Facebook, not necessarily Rooms, but something updated about Facebook, right? And then link that video to the end of, so we update the video at the end of the end card on YouTube with a new video every so often, because those that watch that Facebook Rooms video, it's only like 7 minutes long, might as well watch it. So you turn around and you link the new one, and then it gets suggested for the next one. Then that video starts to take off on
Yeah.
YouTube. So just be intentional with the content that you create and pay attention to what people actually like, the ones that they're actually commenting, asking questions, and like double down on that stuff, and then create a playlist that's around the topic like that too. So yeah, it's very intentional. I always batch record, and I highly recommend it. Like, I record all my content in 2 days, once a quarter. No matter if I feel like it's going out of date, it still gets done. I prepare it. I have a call to action, and it leads into our funnel as well. And so, like, I only spend 2 days for my own show, 2 days out of the quarter per my own show. Then I have like guest episodes and stuff like that. And so, like, yeah, if I set that aside, I have my producer come in. I fly him in from San Diego, and I have him shoot the content. I used to live in California, so I just kept him because I love him to pieces.
Yeah.
So I just fly him in. I said, hey, we're going to shoot content for 2 days. Let's go. And it's on me, and I have to stay accountable because I just made myself accountable because I booked his calendar too. I can't cancel on him. Wouldn't be right. And so I do it that way, and not everybody, is at a point where they feel like they need to or want to afford a videographer or anything like that. But I mean, it's just about setting your calendar, and then don't overdo it, and don't overbook yourself where you are worn out and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna record a video every single day. People have that mentality, but I've had clients that have literally said, I'm gonna go, like, back when Facebook Live was popping, they would be like, well, I'm gonna record a video 365 days this year. I'm like, good luck.
It's a big,
I was like, I want to see
commitment.
this. I was like, and I saw some people get, I think the longest someone got, I was very proud of, for one of our clients. She made it to 190 days. And I was like, applaud you, going over, 5 months or what, like, every day. But she got burnt out. And I was like, what's the point of creating content and be burnt out, right? Like, you shouldn't burn yourself out. Let's be smart about content marketing. So like I said, either start with repurposed content, batch record content, or set aside your recording schedule. And I don't know if you're like this, but I'm like this. When I set up interviews for my podcast, I set them up on the same day. So I record all of that in the same day too. Like, this is my time where I'm going to record guest interviews for my show. And that's it. If someone can't make it, unfortunately, I'm not rebooking, because that was my time set aside, because, like, I value my time at this point, and so I understand things happen. People get sick. There's with COVID and all this stuff like that, but maybe it could be on another show next quarter. But I value time so much, so I can spend time with my family. I just got 2 new puppies that are they're like babies. And I'm like, these puppies are like all over the place. They're so cute. So, like, what's important in our lives at this point, like,
Absolutely.
We don't have to hustle and grind our whole life to, like, just make something happen. And I think when people have that mentality, it really doesn't, yes, you can hustle and grind and have a successful company, but it's by choice at that point, right? Like, I lead a life very intentional at this point, where I'm like, wow, I don't have to go into an office. I don't have to check in. I don't have to have a meeting every day. I don't have to do any of that at this point, but I did do all that, but it wore me down. And I don't want to. I want to do stuff that I love and I'm passionate about, and trust other people that I can delegate to that will do just as good of a job as me or better. And after I started delegating out, I was like, oh my gosh, all these people are just like better at these things than me. I was like, I don't need to do this stuff. And so I know what my strengths are, consulting, speaking, storytelling, like conversations, relationships. Like, I've honed in on what I love and what I want to do more of, in 2023, and keep that focus. And it's the same thing with creating content. Focus on the content you want to create.
Absolutely.
And then, like, and the time. So
I think it's pretty cool that you say that, because we talk about CEOs actually spending the time or being the forefront of the brand, especially when you're content marketing and producing any podcast, even video content, etc., or even writing something like your thoughts, right, on a newsletter or something. But it's important that the CEOs sort of take command when building the initial, like, sort of brand, I think. But do you think that there's certain things, i.e., if I had to ask you what the 3 things are a company or CEO should know when building and applying a content marketing strategy in any industry, what would those three things be? It doesn't have to be three, of course, Tamara. It could be one, it could be, five. It's just,
You're like, it'd be 15 things.
yeah, 50. We can
Let's
name
do
this,
15.
we
No,
can,
I'm just
we can name the show
I'm like,
15
all of
things to
this.
know.
um, so yeah, like, well, yeah. So as CEO, like what I've learned is first I had to have like a very specific niche or target audience, right?
Yeah.
So like we determined like we do cater to different industries, but we really found that our niche was, successful CEOs, experts, influencers. They all had that influential want and need at this point in their career. They built a successful company. They have, most of them have a team managed company. They're doing other things. Like, so we honed in on who our target audience was and niche. So like especially on the startup side, like that's like the first thing. Like if you're, and then second, of course, is the marketing. So like how are you marketing it? Is it like content marketing? Is it podcast? Is it YouTube? Is it direct mail marketing? Is it email campaigns? Is it live streams? Is it webinars? Like, what is it that, you're actually marketing? So second would be like, what are you actually marketing? What are your key offers? And make sure you have more than just one thing that you can actually attract people to, right? So I've had people come to us and they're like, well, we just have this landing page and we don't have a CRM yet. And we don't have, we want to use content marketing to promote. I was like, well, at this point in that stage, content marketing is going to do a few things. It's going to get you consistent. It's going to get you visibility and shared credibility. But if you're trying to leverage a podcast at that point, if you don't have a list, if you don't have an audience, if you don't have a structure that goes into some sort of offer to make sales, then just know this is not your sales strategy, right?
Yeah.
So you have your marketing strategy, and then third, I'd say you have to have your sales strategy in place with that too, because what is that? Are you the salesperson? Do you have a funnel? Are you a Shopify site? Like what is it that you do? And make sure there's multiple touch points with that offer, right? So especially with people that are online or businesses online. Of course, there's brick and mortars and other things like that that are different, that can do direct mail marketing, mailers, send out, things like that. But at this point, since COVID, a lot of people thought differently and shifted that. So like have something to help build rapport, a newsletter, an email list, things like that, a funnel that can be set up. People can set up things for free, even email campaigns, even as simple as like MailChimp or something, just to get started to build their email list, right? Especially on the startup phase, if you don't have specific big budgets. We've used Infusionsoft, well, it's now Keep, for over 8 years, and all of our systems are in Keep. They're in Infusionsoft, right? So like they come in, they buy through a box. They come in, we're setting up bots now for basically direct call to actions for Facebook and Instagram. But you can literally like send them to campaigns, that click a link and it tracks it, right? So it tags each lead that comes in, right? So what is that? So we have a low end offer where they can do an audit, right? Like, I'm going to sign up for an audit for $47. Awesome. We're going to tell you exactly what you're not doing on all your social channels that you can do better. So there's a perfect example of how we're leading them into what we do as a service, right? So it's like, what's next? We have my course launching, my new course launching for my 2023 course. So that goes into that upsell. And then it goes into a funnel of consulting opportunities. So I'm setting up a consult piece on Volley. And then I will also, this year, we go into our services, which our team helps manage, right? So it's like, think of different ways, because we have a premium service level, but we need to attract people that can come into our funnel and learn about what we do and invest in specific ways and specific offers first if they're not ready to pull the trigger to join us on the service level yet, right? So, but people are aware of what we're doing, so they're getting, newsletters each month, or they're getting notifications of the updated new podcast going out. Like, get people that enjoy the content and they'll consume it more through your email marketing as well. So it's about thinking about different ways again. So I'd say is email marketing after you figure out your sales funnel and push that piece that way. But there's so much that, like, as a CEO that you have to think about, but the biggest thing is to delegate. And that's like Like, I can't stress it more. But that, like, after I started delegating, I'm like, oh, geez, that's so much better. I'm like, why was I doing that for like 4 years? Like, there was no
Yeah.
reason to do that. And just have a bigger mindset. That's the best thing for you. Like, work on your mindset. Be open to different verbiage. I don't ever say the word if. I say when. When we hit this.
Yeah.
It's like everything just is a perspective of change and shift. So just the biggest thing is literally mindset and focusing on that industry.
Yeah. And even myself, I've been a culprit of that, where we're just producing content, but there's no in essentially to my particular, like my particular business, i.e. growth vertical, and then like actually looking at helping people in growth marketing. And so, as a podcast, we look at, oh, okay, there's probably no CTAs. If there is a CTA, it's probably just follow and just share and maybe like as well, the standard stuff. But then some people are
So,
like, hey, maybe you want to download
but
this.
that's like yeah, I mean, and that's not going to help you grow it though. Like, if you're going
Absolutely.
to grow your
I agree.
following base, right? And if there's no call to action, people feel that, don't be ashamed of call to actions. That would be what I would say to people, because I have conversations with so many different types of people, CEOs, marketers. Like, people would be like, "Oh, I don't want to be too spammy. I don't want to be, or there's other ones that are like, I have to have a call to action in every single post, And it's like, it needs to be a happy medium, right?
Hmm.
Where you're dispersing content and allowing people to make the decision to work with you, right? So
Yeah.
why not? If people are listening to your content, they like you. They like something about you. Maybe like your guest. I don't know. Whatever it is, like, you have to. You
They
have
will
to.
after this.
It'll give us narrative. And so it's like, I did stand up comedy when I was 20 years old, but we won't go to that
Wow.
story. But
We might have to next time.
I am pretty witty. We'll do a stand up corner, or a sit down corner, whatever that looks like. But so what we do is, but in that method though, it's like, everybody's right, right? So it's like, nobody's wrong. Everybody's doing something in a specific thing, like, and then, like, I always tell people, if you're not putting a call to action link, you must have a call to action within your verbiage, right? So if we know that Instagram right now is doing like one-liners for the
Hmm.
copy and like an arrow pointing down, like, what's your favorite blah blah blah, it's like, it's an engagement post, or like, comment the word event, if you want to learn more about our upcoming event, or you're giving them a direction to do something. We think in our minds like, oh, it's a given. If you ask them a question there, that they'll just answer. But in psychology, when people are reading, they're just scrolling. But if you give them the thing, like say, comment the word event below, they're like, oh, I'm going to go comment,
Very
right? If
easy.
you just
Yeah.
ask a question, they might not answer it. It's very intriguing to me. But when you give them that call to action, if it's a link or if it's an action, or to engage, asking them to engage in the post, you have more opportunity to actually get more engagement. I think that's where people mess up, right? So you could be like, click the link in the bio to listen to the full podcast, comment the word event below, to then like the chat bot goes out and like sends them the information. If you set, I mean, you don't have to get that complex, but just examples, it's
Yeah.
like, give people a call to action, even if it's like, drop an emoji, high
Or
five,
something simple. Yeah.
whatever that is on the platform. Yeah, it's gonna get more engagement, period. And having like really strong titles on your Instagram reels and your covers. We create covers for our clients, so it's like bold, and it's like in your face. It's short. One of our clients is a celebrity nutritionist, right? She works with Cher. She works with Robert Downey Jr. A lot of different people, and one of the ones that took off the first day, it had 30,000 views to the reel, and it was why why artificial sweeteners are bad, and people, of
Yeah.
course, people are gonna click on it like, I'm
I
sure
use
I
it every
have
day. I need
artificial
to see
sweeteners in my
this.
coffee. Damn, I need to see this. So like it's almost like the call to action was like on the cover of the video.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like be strategic on your micro content, and then like you'll just get better engagement. Like because if something's like stale or it's like like I'm very animated, so my content I'm like hey stuff like that, and but yeah, it's like be intentional, see what works, test covers, test questions, ask them to do something in the comments, emoji, whatever it is, or click link in the bio, whatever the call to action is, even if it's not a direct link, like have them do something, but also build your list, not just your following, build your email list, build your offers, build something, give them the option to actually buy. Because that's what majority of people listen to podcasts because they're listening to be either inspired, intrigued, or purchased from somebody, right? And so that's really what's important that I've seen for our clients.
It's interesting because a lot of people look at podcasts and they'll say that they don't think that you're going to purchase from it, but that's actually how you could increase your chances of bringing additional revenue,
I was like,
right?
BS.
It's like additional revenue as well, like 5 to 6 figures.
Well, I literally could tell you like case study after case study after case study. So, and it's all a mindset thing. So, like an example. So, one of our clients, Melissa B, she literally started with us nothing. Right? I was like, she's like, "Do you think you could help me grow my podcast?" She's like, "My YouTube has 5 subscribers, and it's like my mom and my kids." And I was like, well, let me tell. What's your industry? She's like, it's very specific. She was like, it's in aging and like dementia, Alzheimer's, stuff like that. Things that people are legitly searching for. And I said, how many competitors do you have? And she says, to be honest, with what I want to do, there's only one that's like doing everything I want to do. That's become a very big influencer in her space. I was like, well, this is great. I was like, because we can double down on similar types of content based on the offers that this one competitor that she sees is doing. So we taught her how to put together these offers. She launched her first book. She turned around and started hosting workshops. She started getting speaking engagements. And then we taught her how to pitch sponsorship. So she had it after working with us for 5 months, and she's now in her 3rd year working with us. After 5 months, she had a content video that took off on Alzheimer's, 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's. It took off. It had like 50 million impressions, and it's like boom, like it's got like 2.8 million views as well. And then I said, well, okay, the audience has spoken. Create another video very much just like it. So another 10 warning signs of XYZ Alzheimer's. And so boom, that video took off. Within the first week, it had like 530 something thousand views. And then we said, okay, we want more of this content. So she started listening to us on that. She's got over 25,000 subscribers on YouTube now. She gets thousands of downloads to the audio podcast. And then she started being approached by companies and universities. So she's partnered with George Washington University and other organizations where they cover our costs. And they've covered our costs in full for the last year and a half because they're partnerships, sponsorships. And she's been able to position herself in relatable content for her channel on Alzheimer's and aging and things like that. And so it was very intentional to have our clients focus on ways to make money. Not all shows want sponsors and partnerships, and that's fine. But there's other clients that have, like, an example, one of our clients, he wasn't on TikTok yet, and he's already an influencer in his space, but he also had a decent following. But when we said, hey, let's create some more content around this type of content, let's see what happens. So he started creating how-to videos in his industry. And he turned around, and when he started creating how-to videos, he had a video that took off. And in 60 days, he went from 200 subscribers on TikTok, and we grew it to 40,000 followers on TikTok. It surpassed his Instagram of 27,000 followers.
Yeah.
And then he was approached by brands. He's already a keynote speaker, but he was actually approached by industry brands and generated another $177,000 to his bottom line in 60 days by high professional corporate booking keynotes. Literally reached out because of TikTok. So when people think they can't make money from like podcasts or like, think differently. That's like the biggest thing. And of course, We've gotten plenty of people that are like, I got this new client because they heard my podcast. I get clients as well. People are like, this guy literally 2 weeks ago, I got on a call with him and he said, he's like, I had to speak with you. He's like, I binge listened every single episode, like all week long. I was like, first off, I was like, that's cool. I thought, well, that's cool. I was like, I was flattered. And so he was like, all I know is after I finished it, all I know is I need to work with your company.
Yeah.
Boom. Like easiest sale ever. So that was because he listened to my podcast. So people just need to, think that they can. Like they can. You can, you will, you take action, you do. You fall on your face, try again. It's what it is. And if a content doesn't take off and you put all this time and energy into it, let it go. Like the other thing people like, so like the biggest books that I've learned from, the Four Agreements. So the Four Agreements was a book I learned from like a dozen years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like always do your best, be impeccable to your word, don't make assumptions, and don't take things personally. When you live by those Four Agreements, your mindset shifts. And then I read The Go-Giver, which is also one of my favorite books as well. And it's about giving value all the time to your audience. You can tell your top trade secrets online without feeling like I can tell everybody our exact system and how many people are going to actually go out and do it, right? You can try to hire somebody to do it, but the thing is the majority of people are listening to you. Even if you give all your golden nuggets of everything that you do, how many of them will take action and actually do it or hire somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you tell people so much value, they already feel like they know you know your stuff, and they're like, I want to hire you. And so that's the biggest thing there. It's like, give your best, like golden nuggets, give your best value, and then people are like, you're smart, like your strategy sounds amazing, let's have a talk. Perfect. And it's just, yeah, when you give value. Go-Giver by Bob Berg, he literally, like, I read that book and I was like, this is how I live anyway. So I was like, cool, I'm doing something good in life. Like, provide value first. If you want to get in front of influencers, if you want to get in front of other CEOs and experts, like, show them value first. Never make it about yourself. Always put it about them. Like, if you're trying to get in touch with Sarah Blakely from Spanx, even though she just sold the company, like, send her a box of this is just an idea. This is the type of things I do. So, like, send her a giant box of Cheez-Its, because I know she loves Cheez-Its. So sending a big box to the Spanx office, is going to get somebody's attention, because they're like, what is this huge box? And then they open it. They're like, well, it's Cheez-Its, and Sarah loves Cheez-Its. So why not get the attention? Who in the world sent me this box of Cheez-Its? Get some conversation started. If you know there's a CEO out there that you want to connect with, and you know that their favorite football team is the Philadelphia Eagles, and you know their favorite player is this, why not find an autographed helmet if you can and send it to that person in a very large box? Like, you're going to get attention, And so, like, Go-Giver is like, give value first, give presents first. Some people aren't gifts people. I'm not, but I like to give gifts, and I like to think creatively and thoughtful. Yeah. And so when you're thoughtful with that stuff too, like, it's the same thing with content marketing. Be thoughtful. What do people like to see,
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with content, I think.
I think it's important that you mentioned that, because I guess it's crucial that we look at both when we're looking at data-driven content overall, or content strategy overall. Yes, it should be data-driven, but we should focus on both quantitative and qualitative to sort of combine and give us that ultimate strategy. And I know that we talked about going after the right intent, so going after data-driven content, looking at what's currently trending or resonating with your current audience in your niche, etc., to actually measure, the impact that each of the pieces of content are having on what your key metrics are. Of course, you mentioned, but there's one thing I think you were alluding to earlier, which is optimizable content. What is that, and how can it be used, considering to actually generate those millions of impressions that you were talking about from the right target audience?
So you're asking with the intention of the topics?
Yeah. So, like, not even the intention of the topics,
like,
but the optimizing, creating optimizable content. So creating content that you can further optimize in order to continue generating millions of impressions? Because I think you mentioned earlier that you've created content in the past, but even 2 years later down the line, for example, with Facebook pieces of content, it was still having an impact because you were still optimizing aspects of it, right?
Correct. Yeah. And so on that note, like, again, we literally say like, well, that's why we pay attention to analytics every 30 days to what's taking off and double down and create more of that, or repurpose something that took off on that level. We also do market research every quarter for our clients as well. So we lead with the same idea, but we create an entire list of like 50 new topics for them to record. So we plan ahead based on what we've seen in the back end and tools that we use. If it's literally like, if you're looking at like TubeBuddy or vidIQ or Keywords Everywhere or whatever SEO tools that you're using, we use multiple tools to be able to check and cross-check across the platforms, because people will be like, oh, well, I use TubeBuddy. Great. But vidIQ over here shows your score of like 28%. It's not showing you everything in TubeBuddy. So I'm like, so we have both. And then we also have Keywords Everywhere, because we want to see what people are actually searching for on Google, because Google, YouTube's owned by Google. So it's like, be intentional. And then, but I think like that's the biggest thing, is just paying attention to the content that has taken off, create more of it. And then things that are in the past, you can repurpose from that again to put out there, because I've got shorts and reels and stuff that go out, and I was like, my team's posting it out, and I was like, didn't that already go out? I'm like, yes, of course it did, but it took off, so let's go get it again. Because not everybody that saw it is gonna see it again. And it's actual strategy, right? Just repurpose the stuff. And what you can do with Instagram is, if you felt like, oh, you didn't want that video like on your feed again, you keep it on your Instagram. You just remove it from your feed, but it's still in your reels. So if people click over the reels, it still can get traction. So there's ways for people who are like, oh, I don't want to repurpose that again. But if that video took off, why not repost it, remove the other one from the feed, but still live on your Instagram. So there's different ways that you can do that. So
I think that's really cool. I appreciate, by the way, that we've talked about a ton, and I feel like I can ask you questions because you have so many case studies and you've done so much. So, but I think I wanted to ask you like a final question, and it's up to you how you answer this, of course. But what underrated?
I'm up for it, Neil. Let's go.
Okay, I'll throw it at you. But what underrated tool are indispensable for your team?
I'm like,
when you're marketing a business,
tool.
that are indispensable for your team when marketing a business.
So like a tool that we like our team like is a must use like in our process, basically.
Like it's definitely in your tool belt and you would never let it go. And it's the ones it's a type of tool that no one really talks about. If you have any, of course.
Good point. The newer one that's fun is Descript is kind of fun. So like Descript, is in there because you can like edit transcripts, you can edit captions, you can video edit, you can do like, I'm not saying that all of our team like uses that, but it's kind of a cool newer tool that's useful. But honestly, like the best tool that it sounds cheesy, but the best tool that we use every day is Trent, which is our transcription service.
There you go.
Because we transcribe the team transcribes hundreds of podcasts every week. And so like we utilize a transcript. So if it's Trent or rev.com or otter.ai, anything that's a transcriber, like even Descript has a transcription in it, like it's very powerful for what we do, because we have to be able to pull, compelling stuff. We have to have the transcript to anything that we work on. And so people might think like, oh, it's kind of cheesy, but honestly, it's like a game changer when you have transcripts to work with, because you're finding the content. So we're creating LinkedIn newsletters with the transcript. We're actually editing transcripts for those that want the transcript, because you can use a transcript as a free download opt-in on your website, right? So another marketing strategy is for those that don't have time or want to listen to an hour-long podcast, they might be someone that enjoys reading. Why not
Yeah.
offer them the transcript, but make it a free download where you can get them to opt in to download it. So you're collecting their email address. But we're pulling the timestamps for TikTok and all the stuff. We're pulling quotes. We're pulling all sorts of stuff from the transcript. So it all just starts with the transcript, and that's really what's helpful. I know there's a lot of different tools out there right now. AI, chat, GDPT, like there's a ton of stuff that I'm like in there, like pulling stuff. I'm like, this thing's super smart. But what happens is, even if you're using like Jasper or those chats and AI, you have to understand though, there's going to be a point where it's pulling the same content all the time. Like it's pulling from the internet.
Yeah.
And people have to realize that if they're trying to pull content ideas from these AI bots, if it's not something that's just reformatting the way that you wrote something and it's directly pulling something from the internet, they literally just allowed plagiarism. so it's very interesting to see where the AI parts go, but some of those tools are really fun right now because we can create TikTok ideas in a matter of like 10 seconds. But on that though, they pull the same stuff. No matter how you rephrase the type of topics you're looking for, it's gonna still start spitting out very similar stuff. So at the long game, people are saying like, oh, well, I can get rid of my copywriters and I can do this and AI is going to replace this. But
definitely not the case.
The meaning of having a human touch is very important, I still believe. And you can use those tools to help speed up certain processes, but because they're pulling from the internet, you just have to be careful because it's not really within your own words as well.
Yeah.
And so like just be aware of the direction AI is going to help, and it can definitely help in different ways, but nothing ever, relates more to people than I believe in writing and communicating and speaking in a way that's more humanized.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I literally had a friend of mine. He posted this thing about AI on his Facebook, and I was like, did AI write this? Because he was like,
you can tell. You can actually tell.
Gonna, like, take over. He was like, no. He's like, I wrote this, and I was like, huh. I was like, well, I think it's important for us as humans to be able to write, in a way that can connect with people too. Because if you, in your own writing, you start to be writing like these AIs do, our writing itself is going to turn robotic in certain ways. Yes, some of it is very helpful, but like, I don't ever believe it's always everything's going to be taken over by AI and other things like that. It's just a tool that can help us get faster in certain ways. But I like the human touch and having real copywriters, and they pull profound statements, and stuff like that. So I appreciate our team. So
yeah, it's for a brand, right? And it gives you personality. I think that's important at the end of the day. I mean, even for Chat GPT, I've used AI tools before, but I found quickly that you need an editor at hand or some form of a copywriter at hand so that you can help them, they can help assist in terms of editing things up. I've not even got access to Chat GPT actually.
Exactly.
And as a growth marketer, that's kind of embarrassing because I'm still in the waiting line because I want to test it out. But let's hope.
I like it. I like it. It helps me create TikTok ideas. So like that's what it's helping. That's what's helping right now. But it can pull topic ideas really well. But then again, like I said, if I turn around and restructure the question like 3 different ways, it's still sending me very similar topics.
Absolutely.
Like depending on how you position it in that industry. And so I was like, the first time you're like, wow, this is a game changer. And then the second time you're like, okay, cool. I think there's a few more on there I could use. And then by the third one, you're like, okay, I think all of those were in the previous 2 chats, And I was like, okay, well, at least I got some topics to just bash out. And so that's really like where I see with it. So it can be helpful, but those that are like out there creating reels and TikToks, like I'm replacing my whole team. And I was like,
just be wary of AI.
People help support you. People are what help you grow your company. It's the culture and the go-getters and the people that are passionate about what they do, that stand by you and your company. Like when you hire the right people, like you can have robots, AI and stuff, but it's the people that help you scale your company. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Thanks for that, Tamara. There we have it, everyone. As B2B founder, startup founder, marketer overall, you may think that getting started with content marketing is super difficult, and may prove to be a slower path to growth, but it's actually not if you do it right. And that's been proven by Tamara on multiple cases and explicitly shown to us today. There are ways to actually turn your startup into a growth engine, but also into this sort of micro media company, which we see these days, and to get the right content in front of the right audiences, which people have been using from a more data driven standpoint. Tamara's kindly shared quite a few case studies as well on how people can be more create that more impactful pieces of content that's more data driven. But no, Tamara, thanks for coming on today's show. It's been amazing. Honestly, it's been insightful. I've loved every minute of this. And there's definitely a lot of information, a lot of strategies and tactics, and direct tactics that you actually shared that people can go and implement. You guys better go implement it, because some of this stuff's really, honestly, it's you should be doing it straight away. But yeah, I feel like people can take a lot away from this, actionable insights. I appreciate your time here.
Yeah.
If people wanted to connect with you,
Thank you so much,
Tamara,
Neil, for having me.
no, it's a pleasure. But if people wanted to connect with you, how can they do that? And yeah.
I mean, there's different ways. Obviously, I talk about omnipresence. I'm over on YouTube. I have my Video Marketing for Business podcast, Instagram, and TikTok. It's Tamara Thompson official. I'm officially Tamara Thompson. Apparently, Tamara Thompson was taken, so I'm the official Tamara Thompson on those platforms. But if you're looking for some free resources, you can go to broadcastyourauthority.com. On there, we have a free guide that you can download, 7 ways on how to repurpose your podcast, specific ways and strategies that we also utilize for our clients. So yeah, it's broadcastyourauthority.com, and you can pick up that free guide.
Awesome. I'll link it as well below so that no one loses the links and you guys can go find it freely. But no, I appreciate you guys all joining us, and we'll see you guys in a future episode. Take it easy, and thanks for listening or watching, whatever you're consuming this. Take care. Thanks, Tamara, once again.